Hi, it's almost time to say Shabbat Shalom and Chag Sameach. I'm recording this on Friday afternoon. As you can see, my Sukkah is up this time, so you can begin to see the schach and some of the posters and things that my family enjoy every year in the Sukkah, and which we'll be enjoying this evening, albeit in a smaller way. But I'm happy this time to be, again, sitting with the beautiful, special, suffused, unique kind of light that shines in the Sukkah. And today I'm going to be talking about Miriam, one of the most wonderful, active, inspiring women in the entire Torah for many, many people. And also to share something that I actually learned, part of what I learned in a shiur yesterday that I took with Aviva Zornberg online. So I want everyone in Orot to know how much that the faculty of Orot take their own learning seriously, and our own love of learning and our own love of teaching is always shared with you. But I want to talk a little bit about Miriam. She is considered one of the prophetesses. There are some characters in the Torah who the rabbis call them prophets, but are not specifically named as one. But Miriam indeed is called Miriam HaNeviah. She has that unique role, like Moshe. And we know that what we know most about Miriam is two things: her active form of leadership, but also her capacity to observe from afar something that's happening, but then her fearlessness when it comes to acting. Certainly in the Midrash, where she challenges her father, and who's been sort of standing from afar and saying, we're not going to have more children under this decree from Pharaoh, and she challenges her father and said, you're more cruel than Pharaoh himself because you are making sure that no Jewish children will be born. So she stands and observes, and then she steps in for action. When she stands at the edge of the river to see what will come of her baby brother. And then the moment Pharaoh's daughter comes, she stands in to act. Okay. After walking through the sea, she walks through and is there as Moses sings, but then she also knows that she has to take her timbrel and unite the people and to act. She's responsible for the well of water, which is also a source of life, but which has distinctive edges. You stand at the edge of it and you lean in and you draw from it. She has this, and then draw from it. So that's Miriam. And also, finally, the last two things we see about her is how she takes on her brother, and she's actually punished for it, accusing her in many ways accusing him from removing himself from his family, from his wife. There are midrashim about what they talk about the Cushite woman who Moshe has married, when she's really saying, Moses, you were wrong by removing yourself from your life and living in isolation. And she watches what's happening, and then she steps up to lead. And so it's really not surprising at all that Moshe and Aaron are so discomfited and lose a certain amount of confidence after she dies. So Miriam is an inspiration for action and observing and being clever and sizing up situations and understanding what you have to do. And in that way, I think she makes a great heroine for Sukkot. Now, here's the part I learned with Aviva Zornberg yesterday. She taught many things, but she brought a beautiful Rambam from Hilchot Lulav, talking about how Sukkot was celebrated. And I think you'll see as I read some of this how Miriam is right at the center of the essential aspects of Zman Simchatenu. As Rambam says, although it's a mitzvah to rejoice on all the festivals, on the Sukkot holiday it was a time of abundant joy, simcha yetera, in the temple. Okay, and how was it done? On the eve of the first holiday, that's tonight, they would arrange the temple, a place for the women above and the men below, so they might not mix with one another. And they began to rejoice from the night after the first holiday on each and every day of all the days of the holiday. They began with the Tamid offering in the evening and rejoicing to the rest of the day and through the night. How was this simcha performed? I think this is a question for us today is, okay, we're supposed to be rejoicing and being happy, but it feels so hard. What are the conditions by which we need to feel this deep sense of simcha? Well, in those days, the flute was struck, and violin, harps, and cymbals were played, and every person played an instrument that he knew how to play. And those who knew how to sing, sang, and they danced, and clapped their hands and thighs, and spun and crowed, each according to their ability, and spoke words of praise and song. And this joy doesn't supersede Shabbat, so when it's Shabbat it didn't happen. but this sense of like movement and joy and uninhibited expression of holiness, to me, is most identified with Miriam more than anyone else in the Torah. Rambam goes on, it's an obligation to indulge in this merriment. This was not done by the folks of the land or whoever wished, but by the greatest sages and heads of the yeshivot and the Sanhedrin and the pious one and the elders and men of virtuous deeds. They were the ones who danced and clapped and played instruments and rejoiced during Sukkot. And the entire people, men and women, would come to look and listen. Now certainly we would have rather, they said, it was a dance festival for everyone. The women danced, the men danced, they took the mechitza down and danced together. We would have wanted that. But I think it's important to note here how much of the imprint of Miriam's leadership is on this scene, even though the women are standing removed from there. It's at Miriam who understood that dancing was a form of piety, and that she took the lead in doing that. And so here, the way that the rabbis are differentiating it was specifically the leaders of the community that modeled for the people a sense of piety that was uninhibited movement and rejoicing, that I think of as Miriam-style piety. The spontaneity, the uninhibited physical joy that this scene is describing is very much like the joy that we feel when we read about Miriam dancing at the sea. One last piece. The joy that a person should express in the love of God who commanded them is a great worship to God. There's Rambam says it. A feeling of love is a deep form of devotion. Whoever avoids expressing this joy is worthy of being punished. Okay? And whoever carries himself haughtily and takes pride in himself and considers himself too dignified in such places to dance and be uninhibited is a sinner and a fool. So Rambam even goes, if you think that you're better than Miriam, you're the one who's being a sinner. And then he goes on to give the example, of course, of King David, who, at a time of enormous danger, and we may be speaking about him another night, when the Mishkan is brought up to Jerusalem, he spins around and dances in the most uninhibited form as possible. So again, David, who's expressing his kingly joy and passionate relationship to God, in essence, is modeling the kind of leadership and spirituality that Miriam first created for the Jewish people. So here's my wish for all of you. On this night of Sukkah, on this night of Sukkot, push the table aside. If it's only two of you in the Sukkah, if you're in someone else's Sukkah, make space, socially distance as best you can. But spin around, look up at the stars, enjoy the sunshine. But spin around, put your arms out and spin around and try to feel the uninhibited kind of centering and spontaneity and holiness that Sukkot brings to us with such beauty and joy. Chag Sameach. I can say Shabbat Shalom because I'm recording this on Friday. You won't see this on Friday. But I wish all of you a Chag full of Simcha, Yetera, and enormous comfort and joy in this special time.